record. So this is September the 20th at 8:30 in the morning. I'm Mark Frith, and with me is Wrainbeau Willis, and she is interviewing for the position of Administrative Assistant for Family Shield Ministry. And so thank you, Wrainbeau. I appreciate your time. I have 7 questions that I want to ask you, and I'm just going to be listening. And since we're recording this, I get to go back and make my notes later so I can pay attention to what you're saying. And I suspect if I have any follow-up questions based on what you said, I might sneak those in there too. So, you ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Wrainbeau, what are the 3 most important things that I need to know about you today?
As regards the position, I'm detail oriented. I am self-driven, and I enjoy being a helpmate to everyone.
Very good. So tell me, why do you think you'd be good for this role with Family Shield Ministries? That kind of expands a little bit on what you just told.
I've done works that are, I've done jobs. My career has always been in service to others in both in the educational sphere, the higher education, so community college universities. And just recently, I left a job where I was working for a public arts foundation. So I already have that nonprofit foundation experience there. They just wanted way more time than I had to give them. So I left that position. But all of those skills, I've always worked in the office. I've always been a helpmate. I've always been the person that's like the linchpin that does communicate, make sure that communication is flowing between all parties involved, filing, ordering, that kind of stuff. Sort of a mix between an administrative assistant and an office manager.
Okay. So you mentioned something about your detail oriented. So describe your attentiveness to detail for me, please.
Describe it.
Mhm.
I think it's important to read every sentence, make sure that you're back checking all your facts, make sure that your grammar is correct, that your spelling is correct. And if anytime you're dealing with files of any genre, whether it's personnel files or student files or grant files, you have to be detail oriented because other people are depending on that information to be accurate, to be correct, and to get to them in a timely manner.
Okay, very good. Next question I have is describe a time or two when your administrative assistants or management made a big difference in a project or managing some kind of chaotic situation.
Well, as I said, I used to work for a nonprofit just recently, and one of the things that that nonprofit does is they are the ones who are the private management of City Garden, which is a public sculpture park in downtown St. Louis. And I was the personnel manager for that entire park. So it was my job to ensure that everything was running correctly, that if there was a problem that I knew who and when and how to contact them to get them down there to fix it. We had a splash pad and a man-made waterfall and some other water features that always required constant upkeep. And so, you know, just knowing and being able to like manage a project of that size and all the personnel that works in a public park to make sure everything is going the way it needs to go. If again, that's where that whole attention to detail comes in. You have to know and be on top of all of that. Safety regulations, working with the city, making sure you have the mayor on speed dial in case something goes wrong. So that kind of thing. But all of those skills are necessary and thankfully God put me in a position where I had other jobs that led to being able to do that job and do it well.
Very good. That leads me to a moment I want to add a question into here. Remember, I told you I reserve the right to throw in a newbie, but hey,
Yeah.
Describe a time when you failed at something and what did you learn from it?
I don't believe in failure. You either get it right or you learn. You learn from it. And then if you're learning from it, it's not a failure. Uh, for instance, the first time I started at Gateway Foundation, I had no clue um, anything about public parks. I didn't know any, yeah, that's a sphere I'd never been in. I was dipping my toe into it the first time. And like with anything new, you're going to make mistakes as you learn, as you go on. And I will never forget, uh, there was an incident at the ballpark, which you would think it's a ballpark. It's not City Garden. So why would that cross with us? But there was an incident at the ballpark that like bled out into City Garden. And the next thing I knew, I had over 100 people just tromping through
Oh,
all of our plants and climbing in our trees. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening right now? What is going on? They were all looking for some cat. I was like, a cat? This many people to find a cat? I was like, what? And so yeah, I panicked because those plants, they're all native to Missouri, but it costs a lot of money when they get damaged.
mm,
And so yeah, I panicked. I was like, you all have to leave. I was like, you gotta go. And that was not the right answer. The right answer was to get a hold of, the which I learned, like I said, I learned the president of the foundation was like, yo, in the future, if this happens, here's the protocol. This is what we do. And I was like, okay, sorry. Now I know
okay.
to do it that way. So that's why I don't believe in failure. You don't fail, you learn and you get it right the next time.
Gotcha. Failure. When something doesn't go the way we had hoped, we learn from it, is what you're telling me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, we live in a digital world now, Wrainbeau. What skills do you bring to the table for helping to manage communications office needs for Family Shield Ministries?
Well, communication is like my strongest trait. I'm very good at communicating via email, text, phone, all of those ways of communication. So being in a digital world, I think just makes that easier to some extent. Knowing how to set a tone in an email with word choice is important.
Okay. Yeah. Um, what is your superpower?
I'm incredibly patient. I'm
Okay.
very patient. I've learned to I have children, and if you can't be, children will always give you patience. They're like, if you pray for patience, God is going to lead you to children,
Mm,
like 9 times out of 10. Or, and I have a very long fuse. I don't get angry. I don't get frustrated. It takes a lot to push me to that level, like months and months and months. Of like constant whatever. And even then, like I will usually like walk away and go take 5 minutes and then come back. So you never see me sweat. That's my superpower. No one ever gets to
oh,
see me sweat.
interesting. That's fascinating. Makes me want to test that a little bit. Just kidding.
Yeah.
So, my last question that I've got in my bank of questions is this one. Are you adaptive or must other people adapt to you?
No, I'm very adaptive. Like I said, I'm a mom and I've spent over 20 years in education. Education, you have to be adaptive to everyone around you because the students always come first. So you're adapting to them, to their environment, to what they need.
Okay.
I'm also the middle
Um,
child of seven, so no one
oh
has ever
yeah,
adapted to
okay.
me.
You're the middle
No one has
child of
ever adapted
seven.
to me. Yeah.
Good. I thought of another question here. And each of these I record when I ask these, so I ask the other candidates. So we have at least two other folks that are applying for the same position. So, and now since I said all that, what was my question? Oh, so this is a part-time position, a very part-time, at least here at the beginning. Why is that attractive to you? Or is it?
It is there's a couple of reasons. One, it's part-time, but it's also working from home. And as I said, I stepped away from the Gateway Foundation because I was working 70, 80 hours a week there. And I couldn't do that anymore. I could not give that much of myself to the position. And God led me to another position I'm working as a baker, an overnight baker, and that's not I didn't go to school for that. I That just came out of nowhere, and it turns out I really love it.
Oh,
I love it so much. I really love going in at 10 o'clock at night and just working all night. And when the bakery opens in the morning, all of my hard work is just out there on the shelves, all packaged and pretty for people to come in and buy. And there's
um,
something just really fulfilling about that. And so when Mr. Femmel, sent me the link for this position and I saw it was part-time, I was like, I can do two things I love.
okay.
I could do that,
Well,
and do this.
that's excellent. 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 So my last question is, do you have any questions for me?
So yeah, I had asked Kay this question earlier. Like I said, the job says that it's work from home. And then I was reading the job description, and there's times when you'll have to go out to do mailings and drop things off and all that sort of stuff. And so my question is twofold. Um, does this position provide the the computer with the software that will need to be used in order to do things like taxes and that sort of stuff? Um, and deposits. From what I could see, that would be part of my job, is doing deposits. So is there software that you use for that? And will the equipment to work on that come with the position? And the other question is, when I'm running out doing all of these things, dropping things off or mailing stuff, physically getting in my car and driving somewhere, will that be reimbursed?
So those are great questions. That was more than one question, which is good.
Yeah, it was really.
All right. Helps me to process, to know how you think. And I don't know the answer to some of those questions. All right. This is me just being
Yeah.
upfront with you. I'll find out the answers to those questions. Okay. And I'll
Okay.
do that as soon as I can. Because that would be a great question for Kay. What I'm assuming our answer to all of those questions are going to be yes, we are going to provide all of those things. And there's some very specific reasons for why we would want to do that with you and for you. All right. Proprietary reasons. We want you, certainly it comes with software. A good question that we'll need to work through with you or whoever it is that we hire is help us think some of that stuff through. Um, uh, Kay has been at this for a very long time, which is really, really wonderful. She's used to all of those things. Is there new adaptive software that we want to be working towards? And I'm assuming that we will as we step forward into the next couple of years. But I just want to be honest with you. We didn't actually think through those. I didn't think through those answers. I just am assuming that we will do that.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that we will, but your questions are noted from that standpoint in terms of, yes, when you need to drop off a mailing and when we need to process these things, that's time that you're doing, that you're working for the ministry. And so those will need to be compensated. So we'll work through each of those. And part of the reason for a little bit of my hesitancy, but I appreciate that, is until we hire a new what's currently the president of the organization, which is Kay's role. Technically, You and I'm the chairman of the board of directors. You and I will be working closely together. Okay. I live in the
Okay.
Kansas City area, so I don't live in St. Louis any longer. So we will be doing these kinds of things, which is important for me to know. How well do you communicate? How do you communicate? Are you able to use Zoom and these kinds of practices? And so um, that's all going to be helpful because that's my world also. I travel a
Yeah.
lot and we all meet like this in a considerable new way in this new day and age that we live in. So some of these things, we're going to just figure out together. We need to do that until we can fill Kay's role so that now suddenly you are working together with somebody who's most likely, I don't know that necessarily is the case, I guess, now that I think about it, that they're going to necessarily be located in St. Louis. They most likely will be, but I don't know that. So we'll see. We'll see where the Lord leads all of this.
Yeah. Well, the last foundation I worked for, the president of the foundation lived in California, so every meeting we had was Zoom, or
Yeah,
or we would have telephone conferences, that kind of thing.
right, right. Well, and our board of directors are kind of scattered around the Midwest right now, and we do have 3 or 4 people that are in the St. Louis area. So and we'll see how that comes. It's time we'll elect a couple of new board of directors and it'll fill some vacating spots, I think, that are upcoming. So we'll see. Any other questions that you have for me?
No, not at this time. Everything else was pretty black and white and spelled out.
Okay. I appreciate your time, and my team's going to appreciate reviewing this recording. I'm going to listen to it again. I'm going to make my notes, and especially noting your questions, and then we'll get after that to make sure that as a part of the hiring process, we'll be able to answer each of those things. So if it comes back around to you, then you'll ask the same questions again because you'll want to know that, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, since you've been up all night, because I noticed that your email response came to me at 2:31 a.m., I'm going, why is she up at that time of day? Insomniac
I was
or,
I was
you know,
baking bread.
yes. And that's just what a marvel that is. So,
Yeah.
um, but again,